Welcome back, guys. In this video we're going to talk about our client history and modification forms. You will see underneath this lesson there will be 4 forms attached for you. One is the client history form. I'm going to go into more detail about it in the upcoming video. One is the modification table, one is a release and indemnity form, and one is a session log. Now I have a whole video where we're going to dedicate to you on how to utilize those forms, but I want to tell you a little bit about them and the things that we're going to cover in relation to them. So our client history and modification forms are the reason that we're able to gain insurance cover for our students and as professional therapists. Raindrop Australia practices and teaches the highest level of safety and client care when performing hot stone massage. So we're giving you guys all of the insight and tools required to perform this at the highest level of safety and client care. Our forms also cover raindrop technique, VitaFlex technique, chakra balancing, hot stone massage, and the ultimate balance technique for our practitioners who are certified in the respective modalities. So once we've taught you this safety and you decide to do any of our other courses, the safety information will be quite easy for you to get your head around. It's just the first time you try it, someone needs to walk you through a step-by-step process of what that looks like. And I'm going to do that in the coming video. We also want to talk about when safety is of consideration. So because heat is a vasodilator, like we talked about in the previous video, there are certain situations where it should be avoided. These are things like in tissues that have inadequate vascular supply, in case of acute injury. So if someone's got a recent injury, you do not want to be performing hot stone because we don't want to interfere with the body's natural healing process in that. In a case of bleeding disorders, because heat increases bleeding, right? It opens up. Remember, vasodilation is the opening of the veins and it increases the blood flow. And in tissues with a severe lack of sensitivity. So the risk of too much heat, the risk of it being hot and burning them and then not being aware, you're going to want to avoid tissues that have that lack of sensitivity there. Okay? There are also situations where we just would not perform hot stone massage at all. And they are in these situations. People who are prone to blood clots, we do not perform hot stone massage on. If someone has a skin disease or a rash, we would not perform hot stone massage. If someone has an open wound, we would not perform it. Or if someone had just undergone surgery or chemotherapy, we would not perform it. Okay, especially with chemotherapy, it's a potential to make the treatment push through the body. You're increasing the circulation, you're building the immune system. Chemotherapy is designed to suppress the immune system. So in those kinds of situations, we just want to let the body rest and recover in the way that it needs to. So let's talk about contraindications for a minute. Hot stone massage should be avoided if you suspect that a client has a fever or another health issue that could be interfering with their thermoregulation. Thermoregulation is our body temperature. So if your client comes to you and you think that they're getting hot flushes or just sweats but for no real explanation and they're not menopausal, then you would not encourage hot stone massage at that point. You could potentially just give them relaxation massage. Hot stones should never be applied on bruises, open wounds, tumours, hernias, fractures, or inflamed skin. Okay? Now, for your own insurance safety, do not perform hot stone on pregnant women due to an already increased body temperature. It's not that you aren't able to give, a pregnant woman can still receive a hot stone massage. It's for your own insurance safety that we at Raindrop Australia recommend that you do not, because women are generally 5 to 7, sometimes 8 degrees hotter in their physical body temperature when they're pregnant. And if we're heating up mum, we're heating up bub, so let's not do that. That's our recommendation and our standpoint in what we teach around hot stone massage. I also want to encourage you to research the codes in your essential oil safety data booklet so that you can familiarize yourself with the different types of contraindications. They are attached. The safety data booklet is attached at the bottom of this lesson. Cross-reference against your client history forms and note the necessary adjustments on your modification table. Okay, so that's what we're going to do with our contraindications. When I teach you how to use and read the client history forms, and we're going to make the adjustments that are necessary on the modification table following the codes in the Essential Oil Safety Data Booklet, just so that we know we're covered for things like photosensitivity. Let's talk about it. So, you need to know your photosensitive oils and advise your client if the intention is to use them so that they have an opportunity to decline. Photosensitive reactions can be avoided with the application being under clothing or anointed where the body is covered from direct sunlight. However, if you do use a photosensitive oil and the person does go out in the sun, it can create an itch, a bit of a rash where the oil was applied. It can also trigger, in some cases, severe dermatitis. And so it's not an ideal thing. Photosensitivity and essential oils is something you want to be aware of, even if you're using blends. You know, sometimes you can buy some beautiful massage blends just ready to go. And we'll talk about proprietary blends in some other videos later on. The code you're looking for in that safety data book is PH+. And that's the code that tells you to avoid exposure to the sun for 48 hours and up to 72 hours. So for the next 2 to 3 days. This is why your client needs an opportunity to decline. The PH code is avoid direct sun exposure for 12 to 24 hours. So half a day to a day. Be all right to anoint in the evening, should be okay by the following day. But, you know, still could be mindful around that 24-hour mark. Another contraindication that we really need to be mindful of is nut allergies and the carrier oils. So Young Living, they have a V6 vegetable oil that is just so perfectly blended, and it is fantastic for use in massage, but I also use it in cooking. But V6 does contain 8 different nut, seed and vegetable oils. So you need to check your client's history with allergies and cross-check the safety data guide for the contraindications. And again, I will show you how to read your client history form and how we will look for that in the coming video. Now, we at Raindrop Australia promote hemp and fractionated coconut oil as safe carrier oils. Hemp is a very heavy viscosity oil, but it's readily absorbed by the skin, and it has huge health benefits associated with it. And coconut oil is lighter in its viscosity, both in application and its feel on the recipient's skin. Another fantastic oil is jojoba oil, and I'll talk about that in another video. But it's also really balancing to the skin's natural pH. Another situation where we would consider contraindications is for ourselves in relation to infectious disease. Now, basic first aid training is an important skill to have in addition to becoming a practitioner or a therapist. And it's just that further level of commitment to your client's care. Raindrop Australia recommends first aid training through your local St John's Ambulance Training Services. And I also now want to mention what the upcoming assignment is about. So COVID-19 saw an unprecedented change in the delivery of services due to infectious disease protocols in 2020. Workplace Health and Safety has defined an outline for the consideration of a business that falls into the beauty therapy, aromatherapy and spa services industry. So it is now a requirement that disposable gloves and throwaway masks are available to offer a safe measure of protection to both your client and yourself if you're dealing with infectious disease. That could be somebody with the chickenpox, not necessarily COVID. That could be somebody with a cold sore outbreak or shingles, not necessarily COVID. So there are situations where we're going to have infectious disease protocols need to be called upon, and you want to make sure that there is enough PPE there for your client and yourself, so that there's no embarrassing moment that you've thought of yourself first, which is great, but you also want to think of your client. Now, a discussion with your client in relation to your health and safety protocols is an important part of client care to allow your client to express questions and any concerns they may have. So the coming up assignment is about creating a COVID register where you can reassure in an infographic style of information on a flyer what your measures are in place to give your clients confidence when they come to your clinic or your home or wherever you're treating them. They understand what your protocol is. The other thing that we need to consider with infectious disease is people with AIDS or HIV. Now, if somebody was in that situation, if you do not feel comfortable as a therapist or practitioner to perform on someone, you need to tell the client. Okay, now there's a box on the client history form that they'll be able to tick it. If you are happy to work on them but you'd prefer to wear gloves, then you also need to advise them of that. You need to make sure that there's no open wounds on their back, and that, if you're going to not use gloves, that you don't have any cuts yourself. And the reason that I want to address that in as gentle a way as I possibly can is because people who are immune system compromised with a disease like AIDS or HIV are still unfortunately treated with great prejudice within our community, like collectively, globally it would seem. And they often come for massage for that nurturing human touch. And so they need to have an opportunity to refuse your service if you want to wear gloves, because that's, they may very want that skin-to-skin touch as part of their own healing journey. So just be mindful of that, and be sure in what your boundaries are and how you're going to address it, because it's a sensitive subject and no one needs to take offence. Everybody just needs to be clear in the communication of what's expected. And if people say no, or choose to not have your service for whatever reason in relation to those protocols, as long as you're following the highest safety standards, it's okay for them to say no. So yeah, just an important topic there on infectious diseases, guys. Okay, so I'm going to get into a video now where I'm going to show you what we do with the client history form and the modification table and the release and indemnity and the session log. Okay, these are the forms that cover all of the modalities that we teach here at Raindrop Australia, and I look forward to seeing your assignments uploaded from this. All right, see you in the next video, guys.